Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm going to be doing yet another review, so hopefully you look forward to this one just as much as the other ones, and hopefully it can deliver a unique and interesting experience. Now this is a horror film. I'm going to put it in the horror category, although it's not. It's kind of a film that's really hard to put into a genre. So being a horror fan that I am, I'm going to put it into horror. It's a Spanish film, so Spanish language, English subs, so be very aware of that. It's a film directed by a well-known Spanish director named Alex de la Iglesia. Now, I'm not familiar with his films, but I've heard a lot of good things about one of his well-known films in 1997 called Perdita Durango, starring Javier Bardem. So although I haven't seen that one, I'd heard a lot of good things about it, so I was hoping that this one was going to be very good also. It was released in 2010, so I think it's his latest film, and this movie is called The Last Circus. Now, I much rather the Spanish title, which is A Sad Trumpet Ballad, but it's not about the title, it's about the content. So the English title and the more widely known title is The Last Circus. So The Last Circus takes place, at the start of the film, it takes place in 1937. Now, this is during the brutal Spanish Civil War. And at the start of the film, we have this clown. And this clown is performing a routine in this circus, and he's making all these kids laugh, and you kind of get a really happy environment. So, and in the middle of this routine, it's interrupted by these soldiers bursting through. Now, these soldiers are the soldiers who were fighting against General Franco. If you know your Spanish history, you know who Franco is. So the soldiers are recruiting people by force. Whether or not they like it, they're going to have to be recruited if they're strong enough and old enough to fight. So the army recruits all the males who are in this circus, and they're basically told that you have to fight because Captain or General Franco's army is closing in. So the main clown, who has a young son named Javier, is given this machete, and this clown goes through and massacres an entire platoon by himself. So this is a thing of legends, and his name is held in very high regard with the rebels. He is caught and he is sent to jail for the rest of his life. And this is where 10 years later, Javier, the son, is now a teenager. So the teenager comes to visit his father, and he basically says to his father he wants to become a clown just like him. He wants to make people laugh. The father says, okay, become a clown, but you have to become a sad clown. A clown that doesn't make anyone laugh and is to be humiliated. So Javier doesn't like this. He says he wants to be a clown just like him, and he wants to make people feel good. But the father says, son, you didn't have a childhood, and someone without a childhood could not possibly be funny. Now, the reason why he says this is because when Javier was a kid, he was so used to death and tragedy that, he didn't have a normal childhood, and he's not a happy person, so he will never make it as a happy clown. So basically, the film cuts through to 1973. Javier is now an adult, and he has joined a circus, and he is a sad clown. So the circus is run by this old man, but the person who really calls the shots is Sergio, who is the happy clown. Now, Javier is Sergio's sidekick, and in their performances, Sergio humiliates Javier at every given opportunity. Now, Sergio has a beautiful wife who is an acrobat, and Javier witnesses Sergio beating his wife relentlessly. Sergio is one sadistic character. He's very, very evil. And you really feel sorry for Javier because he's starting to fall in love with the acrobat, and he wants to save the acrobat from this very abusive relationship. But because Sergio runs the show in this circus, they believe, or the acrobat believes, that if she leaves him, not only is the possibility of him killing her, but it's also a possibility of the whole circus closing down. Therefore, it will break the heart of her father. So they're left in a very tricky situation. Javier and the acrobat are starting to see each other, and this is where Sergio finds out about this. And Sergio reacts in a very brutal way, which leaves Javier badly beaten. And this is where Javier is on the brink of going over the edge. And how this film unfolds, I'm going to leave that up to you to find out for yourself. But I will say that it is a very thrilling and brutal tale. So hopefully that synopsis has left enough interest for you guys to go out there and see the film for yourself. Yeah, and that's as far as I'm going to go with the storyline. Now my thoughts on this movie. I really, really liked the way that this film sounded. I read the back of it, and that had me sold. And I was hoping that at the end of the film, I would have loved it. And I can say that I do. I absolutely adored this film. It is very different. It's very surreal, and it's very brutal. And I really like the way the director directed this film. It's kind of like Pan's Labyrinth, in that although the stories are completely different, the director has blended surrealism with reality very well. So you have sequences where it's dreamlike, and then we come into the harsh realities, and that's exactly what Guillermo del Toro did with Pan's Labyrinth. And to see that reproduced in Alex de la Glacier's own way was really, really cool, and it's a really sort of Spanish flavour that's really coming through. And I think, it's a very unique way of doing films, but the Spanish are doing it so well. So the characters in the film are absolutely phenomenal. They're very, very interesting. Each one of them has a very unique sort of approach. There's a lot of depth to them, so you can feel sorry for each and every one of them. Even the Happy Clown, as you can see on the front cover there, something happens to his face. It is absolutely ghastly. And when it happens afterwards, you can start to feel sorry for him. And this is a guy who was brutal and very sadistic. So the way that the director has paid careful attention to character development was second to none. Javier was a very sympathetic character. You really sympathized for him at the start of the film, but by the end of the film, you really feared him because he was becoming psychotic. And then you've got the acrobat who was abused at every given opportunity, and she is torn between two loves. So it's a love triangle of Shakespearean proportions. It had a very, William Shakespeare element to it, of tragedy. It's very dark humour, so there are a few scenes that really made me laugh, but, you probably shouldn't be laughing at them. And the ending was very thrilling, and it really did come to a very rewarding climax. So a lot to like about this one. I probably wouldn't go as far to say it was a masterpiece. Maybe in the future I might change my mind on that because I'm still thinking about it right now. It's definitely a film that's going to last with you. It's very unique. A lot of development. The pacing is fantastic. It goes for 101 minutes. And by the end of it, I was wishing that it would just keep going on and on. You get some films that you just wish would end, and you get some films that you wish wouldn't end. And this is definitely a film I was wishing wouldn't end because it was just so in depth. It was so rewarding as far as visuals go. As I said, very surreal, very bizarre, and it's a very, very messed up film. Not the most graphic violence you'll ever see, but it's very harsh and nasty. And the start of the film really does set the tone for what you're in for. It's a very bloody opening, and then at the end it just goes really, really mental. And, as I said, there is a certain element of tragedy to the whole story and what love can do. And it also documents what women will do in an abusive relationship. So, very real elements put into a very surreal film. I would highly recommend it. If you're a fan of Spanish horror, then this one is a must. If you're afraid of clowns, I would definitely not get this one. These are psychotic clowns. But as I said, there is an element of realism and tragedy to the whole thing that really leaves you not feeling good. You're not feeling really sad because there are funny moments in it. But it's just, as I said, it's a tale of tragedy, and it really does it's a modernized version of a Shakespeare story, I guess you could say. It just has that kind of tragic atmosphere to it. So, highly, highly recommended. This was a great film. And, this will appeal to a lot of people, especially if you're a fan of the ever-growing Spanish cinema. So that's my review of The Last Circus. I would highly recommend it. I loved it, and I'm sure a lot of you out there will as well. Alright guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this review. Hopefully it didn't go too long for you. So until next time, take care of yourselves, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. Bye.